Consider the stark reality of humanity's greatest ambition: to live beyond Earth, to survive on Mars, or to build permanent outposts on the Moon. What would such a future truly demand of us? The answers, surprisingly, are not found by gazing into the distant cosmos, but by looking much closer to home, to the most hostile and isolated continent on our own planet, Antarctica. This frozen, wind-swept land, a landscape so alien it often mimics the very conditions we expect to encounter off-world, is our planet's ultimate proving ground, a living blueprint for survival in space. Antarctica, a landmass larger than Europe and Australia combined, is governed by an extraordinary political experiment, the Antarctic Treaty System. Signed in 1959, at the height of the Cold War, this agreement effectively demilitarized an entire continent and dedicated it to peaceful scientific research. This international accord, ensuring cooperation and prohibiting military activity, is as fundamental a piece of engineering for future space governance as any rocket engine. It offers a tangible model for how nations might navigate the geopolitical complexities of celestial bodies, ensuring that our reach for the stars is not marred by terrestrial conflict, but instead built on shared endeavor. Across this vast icy expanse, human outposts dot the landscape, each a lesson in extremes. Take McMurdo Station, the sprawling American research hub on Ross Island. During its peak summer season, this outpost functions like a small town, supporting upwards of 1,000 people. It has dormitories, a dining hall, a post office, even a bowling alley. Yet, every single item, from the nails in its structures to the food on its plates, the fuel in its generators, must travel thousands upon thousands of miles across treacherous seas and icy plains. The logistics are a monumental challenge, and the fragility of these extended supply chains, often battling unpredictable blizzards and shifting ice, reveals a critical vulnerability that would be magnified exponentially on Mars or the Moon. Then, there is Russia's Vostok Station, an outpost of extreme isolation located at the very pole of cold, deep within the continent's interior. Here, temperatures plunge to a staggering minus 89.2 degrees Celsius or minus 128.6 degrees Fahrenheit, the lowest naturally recorded temperature on Earth. For months on end, Vostok is completely cut off from the outside world, a self-contained bubble of humanity existing in utter remoteness. This profound isolation, where no resupply is possible and every breath instantly freezes in the air, offers a chillingly accurate parallel to the profound loneliness and self-reliance that a long-duration mission to the Martian surface would demand. These Antarctic bases, in their stark lessons, reveal that the greatest threats to human survival in extreme environments are often not the external conditions themselves, but the internal pressures they exert. Beyond the biting cold and the vast distances, the true adversaries are the fragility of those vital supply lines and the immense psychological toll of the wintering over period. When daylight vanishes for months and the world shrinks to a few hundred square feet shared with a handful of others, the human mind is tested as rigorously as any piece of machinery. It was in this crucible of isolation that the pioneering psychological studies of American researcher Dr. Lawrence Palinkas took root. He meticulously documented the subtle cognitive and interpersonal strains on polar crews, observing how prolonged confinement and sensory deprivation could impact decision-making, mood, and social cohesion. His invaluable data, revealing the often invisible stresses that accumulate over months of shared adversity, provides crucial insights for designing the protocols and selecting the crews for humanity's long-duration space missions. The mental resilience of a crew, it turns out, is as critical as the integrity of their habitat. This profound connection between the history of polar exploration and the future of space colonization cannot be overstated. It demonstrates that the core challenges of creating a self-sustaining habitat, of ensuring human sanity and survival in an utterly alien environment, were first encountered not in the vacuum of zero gravity, but amidst the howling winds and crushing ice of Earth's southern ice cap. The lessons learned are not merely historical footnotes for intrepid adventurers. They are the unwritten preface to humanity's ultimate survival guide for the Moon and Mars. From the common failures of equipment in extreme cold, to the complex social dynamics of confined, multicultural groups, to the necessity for astonishing resourcefulness when every resource is finite. These are the fundamental building blocks of our off-world future. This historical parallel reframes the entire challenge, shifting it decisively from the realm of science fiction to a tangible, deeply researched continuation of humanity's enduring quest to explore, adapt, and ultimately to survive. Asteroid impacts, solar flares, the vacuum of space itself. These are the colossal, headline-grabbing threats we often associate with venturing beyond Earth. But the true, most insidious enemy awaiting human colonists on the Moon or Mars is far more mundane, yet relentlessly destructive: the dust under their feet. It is not the familiar, soft, organically composed dust of Earth that settles harmlessly on our furniture. This is a material of pure, unadulterated destruction, an omnipresent adversary shaped by billions of years of cosmic bombardment. This extraterrestrial dust, known as regolith, is unlike anything found on our home planet. Imagine, for a moment, rock and glass pulverized into microscopic shards, each one razor-sharp, a legacy of countless micrometeorite impacts without the softening, erosive effects of wind or water. On Earth, our air and oceans round off the edges of particles, making dust relatively benign. But in the airless, waterless environments of the Moon and Mars, every tiny fragment retains its jagged, abrasive geometry. It is a crystalline menace, waiting to infiltrate every nook and cranny of a human habitat. The first human encounters with this alien powder were strikingly immediate and unsettling. During the Apollo missions, astronauts frequently reported what became known as lunar hay fever. It was geologist Harrison Schmitt, a crew member of Apollo 17 in 1972, who famously described the irritation after inhaling the fine, abrasive dust that clung stubbornly to his suit. Stepping inside the lunar module after an extravehicular activity, the dust would rise into the cabin, a fine, gritty cloud that irritated their eyes and throats. A minor annoyance, perhaps, but a stark warning of a much larger problem. What makes this cosmic dust so uniquely troublesome are its electrostatic properties. Without an atmosphere to dissipate static charges, these tiny particles become highly charged, causing them to levitate, literally hovering above the surface, and adhere with astonishing tenacity to virtually every surface they touch. From the visors of helmets, obscuring vision, to the intricate mechanisms of critical life support equipment, the dust becomes a pervasive contaminant. It acts like a brutal sandpaper, leading to the rapid abrasion of seals, the clogging of vents and moving parts, and a severe degradation of solar panels, reducing their efficiency by a staggering 25% or more in some lunar tests. For a nascent colony utterly dependent on every watt of power, this is a crisis in the making. On Mars, the problem of regolith is compounded by a chilling chemical reality. In 2008, NASA's Phoenix lander discovered the presence of toxic perchlorates in the Martian soil. These are highly reactive chemicals that, while potentially useful as a resource for rocket fuel, pose a severe threat to human health. Inhaling or ingesting perchlorate-laden dust could severely impair human thyroid function, disrupt metabolic processes, and lead to serious respiratory issues over prolonged exposure, transforming a mere engineering challenge into a profound medical emergency. It moves beyond simple housekeeping. It becomes a fundamental engineering and medical dilemma, a microscopic war on machines and lungs alike. The scientific and engineering communities are now locked in a desperate race to develop cutting-edge mitigation strategies. One promising avenue involves the use of magnetic dust shields, harnessing the very electrostatic properties that make the dust so problematic. By creating electromagnetic fields around critical surfaces, scientists aim to repel the charged particles before they can accumulate and cause damage. Other innovative solutions draw inspiration from nature itself, such as novel self-cleaning materials designed to mimic the remarkable properties of the lotus leaf, whose surface structure naturally sheds water and dirt, or new coatings that prevent electrostatic adherence. Winning this silent, ubiquitous war against an enemy that is persistent, abrasive, and infinitesimally small will be absolutely paramount for humanity's long-term survival in the alien landscapes of the Moon and Mars. The enduring appeal of space exploration often paints a simple, almost romantic picture. A lone astronaut, perhaps tending to a small patch of potatoes, cultivating life on an alien world. This vision, so often popularized by science fiction, dramatically underestimates the profound biological complexity required for humanity to truly establish a self-sustaining colony beyond Earth. Survival, it turns out, depends not merely on agriculture, but on the audacious engineering of a complete, miniaturized, and artificially intelligent ecosystem, a concept best described as a technosymbiosis. It is a grand biological experiment, far more intricate than growing a few vegetables in hydroponic trays. To truly grasp the monumental challenge involved, one must look back at a pivotal, albeit controversial, earthbound endeavor, the Biosphere 2 experiment. Nestled in the Arizona desert, this colossal sealed structure, covering 3.14 acres, was home to an ambitious project from 1991 to 1993. Inside, 8 biospherians lived within what was intended to be a miniature, self-sufficient replica of Earth's ecosystems. The goal was to prove that humans, plants, and animals could thrive in a closed system, completely isolated from the outside world. But this noble ambition soon faced unforeseen, microscopic adversaries. Within months, the meticulously planned ecosystem began to falter. The carbon dioxide levels within the Biosphere 2 started to fluctuate wildly, and critically, oxygen levels plummeted, at one point dropping to a perilous 15%, equivalent to living at an altitude of over 13,000 feet, well above the highest peaks of the Rocky Mountains. The air became thin, the biospherians grew lethargic, struggling to even perform basic tasks. The culprit was not a technical failure, but a silent, unseen rebellion of the microcosm. Unforeseen microbial activity within the soil and compost consumed oxygen at an alarming, unexpected rate. Compounding this existential threat, the delicate balance of life was further disrupted by a population explosion of pests. Swarms of ants and cockroaches, tiny invaders that had hitched a ride into the sealed world, multiplied unchecked, overwhelming the carefully selected species. Many of the vertebrate species, from hummingbirds to pigs, struggled to adapt or reproduce. This glorious failure, as scientists now call it, offered profound, sobering lessons. It revealed that humanity cannot simply transplant a piece of Earth, no matter how carefully curated. Instead, every single microbial interaction, every nutrient cycle, every breath of air must be meticulously curated, understood, and managed with precision that dwarfs anything attempted before. This understanding has propelled scientists into the frontier of synthetic biology, a discipline that aims to design new biological parts, devices, and systems. At institutions like NASA's Ames Research Center, researchers are using groundbreaking CRISPR gene editing technology to design custom microbes. These aren't just any microorganisms. These are living, programmable machines. Think of them as microscopic biological engineers, each one assigned a vital task within the habitat. Some could be programmed to efficiently break down human waste, transforming it from a toxic byproduct into valuable raw materials. Others might be engineered to fix atmospheric nitrogen, essentially pulling this critical element directly from the air to enrich the soil for food production, eliminating the need to ship heavy fertilizers from Earth. The potential extends far beyond waste management and nutrient cycling. These custom organisms could be precisely tuned to produce essential vitamins and pharmaceuticals on demand, tailoring their output to the specific needs of the colonists. Consider a scenario where a sudden illness strikes. A specially engineered microbe could be activated to produce a specific antibiotic or vaccine right within the colony's bioreactors, without waiting for a resupply mission that could take months or even years. Some microbes could even act as biological sentinels, programmed to detect contaminants in the air or water long before they pose a threat to human health, providing an early warning system more sensitive than any machine. The vision is to move far beyond conventional hydroponics, which merely cultivates plants in water, towards a concept known as a bioregenerative life support system. In such a system, every exhaled breath, every drop of sweat, every piece of organic waste is no longer discarded. Instead, it becomes a valuable resource, meticulously reintegrated into the closed loop by a precisely balanced microbiome. Carbon dioxide exhaled by humans becomes nutrient for algae or plants. Human waste is transformed into fertilizer. Water vapor from breath is condensed and purified. It is an intricate, self-sustaining cycle where nothing is truly wasted, and every output becomes an input for another part of the system. This is not simply farming in space, nor is it merely recycling. It is the creation of a new, hybrid form of life itself, part organism, part machine. This intricate, living system, designed and maintained with artificial intelligence, will be the true beating heart of any long-term colony on Mars or the Moon, a testament to humanity's ability to not just survive, but to truly thrive by embracing the invisible power of the miniature. For generations, humanity's journey into the cosmos has been romanticized as a triumph of technology and a test of sheer human will. We have built rockets that defy gravity, habitats that sustain life in the vacuum, and systems that manage waste with astonishing efficiency. But there remains a frontier far more intricate, more vulnerable, and perhaps more vital than any machine we could ever conceive: the human mind itself. And the greatest challenge it faces in the cold, silent expanse of space is not the vastness of isolation, nor the confines of a small module, but a fundamental, insidious mismatch with the very planet on which it evolved over countless millennia. Consider the human brain, an organ sculpted by the constant pull of Earth's 1g of gravity. Every step we take, every movement we make, every sense of balance and orientation is intrinsically linked to this pervasive force. But on the Moon, this force is diminished to merely 1/6 of Earth's gravity, and on Mars, it falls to a mere 1/3. This isn't just a minor adjustment, it is a profound remapping of reality for the brain's most ancient systems. Our vestibular system, residing deep within the inner ear, is a marvel of biological engineering, using fluid and tiny hairs to tell us which way is up. Our proprioceptive network, a vast web of sensors throughout our muscles and joints, constantly informs the brain about the position and movement of our limbs. When these systems are suddenly deprived of their familiar gravitational cues, they enter a state of constant struggle, desperately trying to reinterpret signals that no longer make sense. The result can be a pervasive, chronic disorientation, a persistent sensation of unease, and a measurable degradation of fine motor skills that could prove catastrophic in a high-stakes alien environment. The brain's struggle in low gravity extends beyond balance and movement. Scientists have observed a perplexing condition known as spaceflight-associated neuroocular syndrome, or SANS. This is not merely a temporary discomfort, but a complex medical mystery observed in astronauts who spend extended periods aboard the International Space Station. In the absence of Earth's gravity, fluids within the human body shift upwards, leading to increased pressure in the skull. This intracranial pressure can cause structural changes to the eye, including swelling of the optic nerve, and even subtle alterations to the brain itself. Why this happens, and how it can be mitigated, remains a subject of intense study by institutions such as the Translational Research Institute for Space Health, or TRISH, a collaborative effort spearheaded by remarkable scientists like Dr. Dorit Donoviel in the United States. These investigations are not just about addressing a medical anomaly, they are about understanding the fundamental limits of human physiology beyond our planetary cradle. The profound neurosensory dissonance experienced in alien gravity demands more than medical solutions. It calls for a revolution in habitat design. The very architecture of a future lunar or Martian colony must become a form of neurological therapy, actively compensating for the brain's confusion. Think beyond simple living quarters. Walls could incorporate dynamic lighting cycles that precisely mimic Earth's sunrise and sunset, guiding our circadian rhythms even when there is no natural day or night outside. Color palettes within the habitat could be meticulously chosen to evoke specific emotional responses and provide clear visual cues for orientation, moving away from sterile whites to warmer, more organic tones that reduce cognitive load. Perhaps most critically, artificial horizons could be integrated directly into walls or floors, subtly reminding the brain of a consistent up and down, a reference point for balance that the environment itself does not provide. This is about building not just a shelter, but a neurological anchor, a physical space that helps the mind maintain its sanity and function. The human mind's encounter with space has always been a source of both wonder and profound introspection. Astronauts gazing back at Earth from the vastness of orbit often report the overview effect, a powerful cognitive shift, an almost spiritual revelation born from seeing our pale blue marble as a fragile, interconnected whole. It is a unifying, humbling experience. But for those who will live for years, perhaps even generations, on the airless moon or the dusty plains of Mars, a different, more unsettling phenomenon could emerge. The solitary Earth syndrome. Imagine waking up day after day, year after year, without the familiar scent of rain, the sound of birdsong, the shifting patterns of clouds, or the gentle, reassuring pull of Earth's gravity. This profound lack of familiar sensory input, the constant absence of the world our bodies and minds evolved to understand, could lead to new forms of anxiety, detachment, and a deep-seated psychological disconnect. It is a loneliness far more pervasive than mere social isolation. Ultimately, the future of human colonization hinges not only on building resilient minds capable of enduring extreme conditions, but on constructing habitats that are, in essence, vast, sophisticated neurological therapies. The success of a lunar city or a Martian outpost will depend on our ability to engineer an environment that actively supports and even recalibrates the human brain, bridging the immense gulf between the world we left behind and the alien landscapes we seek to call home. For generations, our push into the cosmos has been fueled by scientific curiosity, national pride, and the sheer audacity of human ambition. But beyond the flags planted and the samples collected, a stark truth emerges. Every orbital journey, every lunar landing, every robotic rover on Mars costs billions upon billions of dollars. And for any true off-world colony to thrive, to become more than just an incredibly expensive outpost, forever tethered to Earth's fluctuating political will, it must answer one fundamental question: how will it pay for itself? The popular narratives often point to grand, almost mythical resources, the vast reserves of helium-3 on the Moon, a potential clean fusion fuel source, or the untold riches of metallic asteroids, brimming with platinum and rare earth elements. These visions ignite the imagination, promising an interstellar gold rush. But upon closer inspection, the harsh realities of physics and economics ground these dreams in the dust. Transporting bulk materials, whether it is lunar helium-3 or asteroid iron, across millions of miles of vacuum remains astronomically unviable. The energy required to lift just 1 kilogram of material from the Moon's surface, or to nudge an asteroid from its orbit and shepherd it back to Earth, far outweighs the current market value of these raw resources. We are talking about costs that dwarf entire national budgets, a financial black hole that would swallow any profit before the first ounce of material even reached terrestrial markets. So, if not through digging for cosmic treasure, how does an off-world settlement achieve economic independence? The answer lies not in raw materials but in ingenuity, in services, and in the unique conditions of the space environment itself. The first truly viable industry for a lunar or Martian colony will likely emerge from its own necessity, becoming an interplanetary service station. As argued by former NASA physicist Philip Metzger, a leading voice in space resource utilization, the game changer is locally manufactured propellant. Think of the Moon or Mars as Earth's gas station for deeper space missions. Water ice, trapped in the permanently shadowed craters of the lunar poles or abundant just beneath the Martian surface, can be split through electrolysis into hydrogen and oxygen, the very components of rocket fuel. Instead of launching every ounce of propellant from Earth's deep gravity well, at a cost of tens of thousands of dollars per kilogram, a spacecraft could refuel at a lunar outpost for a fraction of that price. A single mission to Mars, for instance, might require 100,000 kilograms of propellant. If even a fraction of that can be produced off-world, the savings become astronomical, turning the colony into a vital, strategic hub, the very bottleneck of humanity's expansion into the solar system. Beyond fuel, the unique conditions of microgravity and vacuum offer an unparalleled environment for advanced manufacturing, allowing the creation of items simply impossible to produce on Earth. Consider the fabrication of flawless Z-blan optical fibers. On Earth, gravity introduces tiny imperfections and distortions in the glass during the fiber drawing process, limiting the purity and data transmission capabilities. But in the near-perfect microgravity of an orbital factory, or even within a lunar habitat, these fibers could be drawn with an unprecedented level of crystalline perfection, enabling next-generation telecommunications with vastly higher bandwidth and lower signal loss. Imagine a data backbone for a connected Earth that relies on materials manufactured 250,000 miles away. Or consider the cultivation of perfect protein crystals. On Earth, gravity interferes with the uniform growth of these delicate structures, making it difficult to analyze their precise, three-dimensional atomic arrangements. Yet, understanding these structures is fundamental to revolutionary drug development, from new antibiotics to groundbreaking cancer therapies. In the absence of gravity's disruptive pull, protein crystals can grow larger, purer, and more uniform, yielding insights that could unlock cures and treatments for countless diseases, establishing off-world labs as the undisputed frontier of biomedical innovation, a truly unique export. But perhaps the most radical and potentially most lucrative future for an off-world colony lies not in physical goods at all, but in the realm of pure information and intellectual property. A lunar or Martian base could become the ultimate data haven, a secure center for cutting-edge artificial intelligence research and vast server farms. Located beyond the reach of terrestrial geopolitics, insulated from terrestrial cyber warfare, and potentially cooled by the extreme temperatures of deep space or permanently shadowed craters, these data centers would offer unparalleled security, stability, and energy efficiency. Think of a digital Switzerland, but on the Moon. Here, sensitive algorithms could be developed, vast datasets processed, and critical intellectual property stored, away from the prying eyes of nation-states and corporate espionage. The value generated by breakthroughs in artificial intelligence, by secure data storage, and by the sheer intellectual output of such a hub would be immeasurable, creating a new form of digital economy untethered from Earth's physical constraints. This economic model represents a profound paradigm shift, moving a space colony's value proposition from the extraction of raw materials to the generation of high-value information, specialized services, and relentless innovation. It is a vision where a Martian city or a lunar settlement becomes a self-sustaining financial ecosystem, one that reinvests in its own growth, its own research, and its own expansion, rather than perpetually extending a begging bowl to a distant, often distracted Earth. This ensures that the pioneering spirit of humanity's off-world venture is matched by an enduring, self-reliant future. On a distant world, where the very atmosphere must be manufactured, where every breath is recycled, and a single breach can mean instant death, who holds the power to decide who lives and who dies? What happens when the government literally controls the air you breathe? The survival of humanity's first off-world colonies will depend less on the marvels of engineering and more on the invisible, often volatile, forces of human nature. Our social structures, our laws, and our ability to forge a new contract under unimaginable pressure. Consider the grim reality. In a closed-loop habitat, even a minor act of defiance, a momentary lapse in judgment, or a fundamental disagreement over resources could trigger a cascade of failures. A broken machine can be fixed, but a broken trust, a fractured command, or outright rebellion within a population numbering perhaps a mere few dozen or a few hundred could spell utter catastrophe for everyone. This makes governance on the Moon or Mars not merely a political debate, but an engineering problem of the highest possible order, a vital piece of the life support system itself. History offers chilling precedents for the inherent fragility of human hierarchies when pushed to their absolute limits. Cast your mind back to the year 1789, to the infamous mutiny on His Majesty's ship Bounty. A small crew, confined for months within the suffocating wooden walls of a sailing vessel under the absolute authority of a tyrannical captain. The pressures of isolation, deprivation, and rigid command ultimately exploded into open rebellion, leading to desertion and the scattering of lives across the vast Pacific Ocean. The lessons from that violent uprising, nearly 250 years ago, echo through the vacuum of space. They demonstrate that the greatest threats often come from within. Or reflect on the tragic breakdowns of social order during failed polar expeditions that shared the brutal isolation and unforgiving environment of any future off-world settlement. Explorers like Sir John Franklin and his men, lost in the frozen Arctic in the mid-19th century, faced starvation and mental collapse. Stories emerged of desperate acts, of authority crumbling under the immense stress of cold, hunger, and the realization of impending doom. These accounts, preserved in journals and archaeological findings, provide stark warnings that even the most disciplined individuals can devolve into chaos when confined, isolated, and pushed beyond the breaking point by an environment that offers no forgiveness. So, how will a society be governed when its very existence hinges on perfect cooperation? Several competing models vie for consideration. Early space missions, like those of NASA or the Soviet Union, operated under a rigid, military-style command structure. Every order was absolute, every action meticulously choreographed. This model prioritizes efficiency and immediate survival, but it leaves little room for individual dissent or the nuanced complexities of long-term social growth. It is built for a sprint, not a marathon spanning generations. Then there is the corporate-led structure, a model perhaps championed by private entities like SpaceX. Here, the colony might function like an extension of a company, with rules dictated by a board of directors on Earth or by a powerful chief executive on site. This approach promises streamlined decision-making and a clear profit motive, potentially accelerating development. But it also raises fundamental questions about individual rights, labor practices, and whether a for-profit enterprise can truly serve the long-term collective interests of its citizens, especially when the bottom line might conflict with human welfare. What if profit demands a cut in oxygen recycling efficiency or a reduction in mental health support? Perhaps the most radical vision for governance is a form of direct digital democracy enabled by the colony's inherent small size and advanced technology. Every colonist, equipped with personal devices, could vote on every major decision, from resource allocation to daily schedules, with results tallied in real time. This offers unprecedented transparency and citizen empowerment, transforming every colonist into a legislator. But such a system could also be slow, prone to endless debate, and potentially paralyzed by the very disagreements it seeks to resolve, especially when time-critical decisions mean the difference between life and death. How quickly can 1,000 people vote on a critical airlock repair procedure when a micrometeoroid strike is imminent? The scientific basis for understanding these group dynamics comes from sociologists who study isolated, confined, and extreme, or ICE, environments. Experts like James S. Johnson have meticulously documented the psychological and interpersonal stresses within submarine crews, Antarctic researchers, and even long-duration space station inhabitants. Their work provides invaluable data for predicting conflict points, identifying personality types that thrive or fail under pressure, and designing social protocols that can mitigate friction before it escalates. They study how hierarchies form, how norms evolve, and how collective identity can be forged or shattered in environments where escape is not an option. This brings us to a fundamental question, one that has been passionately debated by thinkers like Robert Zubrin, the tenacious founder of the Mars Society in the United States. Should future colonists be subject to the laws of their home countries, forever beholden to the distant legal systems of Earth? Or, given their unique and perilous circumstances, must they draft their own constitution, their own social contract, from day one, an entirely new legal framework born of the vacuum and the red dust? This is a question with no easy answer, a grand political science experiment where the wrong choice could, quite literally, prove fatal. True colonization is not merely a visit. It is not about planting a flag, establishing a temporary base, or even extracting resources for a distant homeworld. True colonization implies staying for generations, putting down roots, and fundamentally altering the trajectory of a species. This profound commitment inevitably raises one of the most compelling questions of our cosmic future. How will humanity itself adapt and evolve when born and raised on Mars, or the Moon, worlds with alien gravities and unforgiving environments? We must look beyond the immediate health effects on the very first pioneers, the astronauts and settlers, and instead consider the long-term genetic path of an entire human population. On worlds like Mars, the combination of a high radiation environment and severe genetic isolation from Earth's massive population could dramatically accelerate a process known as genetic drift. Think of it like this. If you take a large, diverse bag of marbles, representing the entire human gene pool, and then randomly select just a handful to start a new, isolated collection, that new collection will immediately have less genetic variety. Now, imagine this small, isolated group reproduces for centuries, with natural selection favoring specific traits for survival in this new Martian environment, and random chance playing a much larger role in which genes get passed on due to the smaller gene pool. This scientific phenomenon, deeply rooted in established evolutionary biology, suggests that within a matter of mere centuries, not millennia, a distinct human subspecies could begin to emerge. Martian-born, Martian-shaped. The challenges for the first generation of native-born Martians would be tangible, etched into their very physiology. How would their skeletal systems develop under a constant gravitational pull that is only 38% of Earth's? That is less than half the force their ancestors evolved under for millions of years. Their bones might be less dense, perhaps even structured differently, making them inherently fragile if they were ever to return to Earth's full gravity. Their cardiovascular networks, finely tuned to pump blood against Earth's robust 1G field, would have to adapt to a vastly reduced workload. Would their hearts become smaller, less muscular, or would their blood vessels develop unique adaptations to cope with the altered fluid dynamics? And what of their immune responses? Human immune systems evolved in a teeming, complex biosphere, constantly exposed to a vast array of microbes. In a sterile, closed Martian habitat, how would their bodies learn to fight infection, and would they be catastrophically vulnerable if ever exposed to the full microbial diversity of their ancestral home? These biological realities lead us to one of the most complex ethical dilemmas of the 21st century. It is a debate actively engaged by leading bioethicists and geneticists, including Harvard's own Dr. George Church. The question is stark. Should we use germline genetic engineering to proactively adapt future humans for life off Earth? This is not about correcting genetic diseases, but about enhancing, even redesigning, human biology. It could involve engineering greater natural radiation resistance into our very DNA, perhaps by boosting the efficiency of cellular repair mechanisms that counteract cosmic ray damage, or by increasing the production of natural antioxidants. It might mean modifying muscle and bone density from birth, ensuring that a Martian child grows up naturally strong and resilient in their low-gravity world without the constant need for artificial countermeasures. This conversation moves us beyond mere survival, beyond simply trying to keep Earth-evolved humans alive in an alien environment. It forces us to confront the concept of directed evolution, a conscious decision to guide the biological future of our species. We are compelled to ask, should humanity remain a single, unified species, forever bound by the biological blueprint forged on one world? Or, in our grand venture across the stars, will we embrace an engineered, divergent evolutionary future, allowing new branches of the human tree to blossom on alien soil, forever changed by the worlds they call home? For generations, the allure of Mars has been simple: a new frontier, a backup planet, perhaps even an escape from the mounting pressures on Earth. We gaze skyward, dreaming of red dust and distant stars. Yet, what if the true, profound purpose of leaving our home world is not to find another, but to finally understand the one we already inhabit? This journey outward, into the cold, silent void, holds up a mirror to ourselves, reflecting back invaluable lessons about our planet, our biology, and the intricate tapestry of human society. Consider the immense, almost impossibly complex challenge of building a perfectly closed-loop life support system for a Martian colony. Every exhaled breath, every drop of water, every nutrient cycle must be meticulously engineered to recirculate endlessly without waste. This is not merely about growing food in a greenhouse. It is about creating an entirely artificial ecosystem that sustains human life within a sealed, hostile environment. The effort to achieve such biological self-sufficiency on Mars directly forces us to master the very principles of a truly circular and sustainable economy here on Earth. Our current global system, which often treats resources as infinite and waste as disposable, is revealed as fundamentally unsustainable when viewed through the lens of a tiny, fragile habitat where every atom matters. The ingenuity required to recycle 85% of all water on the International Space Station, for example, a feat of engineering that turns astronaut urine and sweat into potable water, pales in comparison to the 98% plus efficiency needed for long-term survival on Mars. That challenge compels us to rethink everything from urban farming to waste management on a planetary scale, delve deeper into the human element, and the insights multiply. The neurobiology of astronauts adapting to alien gravity, the profound sensory and vestibular confusion they experience, offers an unprecedented window into the workings of the human brain. Here on Earth, our brains evolved over millions of years under the constant, comforting pull of 1G. But in the fractional gravity of the Moon, or the 38% gravity of Mars, our internal compasses are thrown into disarray. Scientists studying spaceflight-associated neuroocular syndrome, where fluid shifts cause structural changes to the eye and brain, are not just diagnosing a space malady. They are unlocking secrets about brain plasticity, fluid dynamics, and neurological resilience that could impact our understanding of conditions like glaucoma, intracranial pressure disorders, and even the aging brain here on Earth. The extreme conditions of space act as a natural laboratory, pushing the boundaries of human physiology and revealing its hidden mechanisms. Then, there is the intricate, often volatile challenge of forging a new social contract for a tiny, isolated human habitat where dissent could literally be fatal. On Earth, our sprawling political systems, with their millions or even billions of citizens, allow for a certain degree of inefficiency, corruption, and social friction. There are safety nets, escape valves, and the vastness of geography to absorb conflict. But in a colony spanning mere dozens or hundreds of individuals, confined within a pressurized shell against the vacuum, every social dynamic, every decision, every conflict resolution mechanism becomes critical. The historical breakdowns witnessed in failed polar expeditions, where hunger and isolation eroded social order, provide chilling precedents. The necessity of designing a fair, resilient, and life-sustaining governance model for a Martian base forces us to re-examine the very foundations of our own imperfect political systems, asking fundamental questions about leadership, resource allocation, and individual freedom when survival is paramount. This profound realization brings the narrative full circle, back to the sentiment eloquently articulated by Carl Sagan in his famous 1990 pale blue dot reflection. When the Voyager 1 spacecraft, 4 billion miles away, turned its camera back towards Earth, it captured our world as a tiny, almost imperceptible speck of light, suspended in the vastness. It was a humbling, almost spiritual moment, reframing our entire existence. From the sterile, hostile environments of other worlds, the immense effort required to merely survive underscores the incalculable preciousness of Earth's robust, self-regulating biosphere. This planet, teeming with life, with its intricate web of ecosystems, its vast oceans, and its breathable atmosphere, is not a given, it is a miracle. The quest for Mars, therefore, is not an escape plan, nor is it merely about establishing a foothold on another world. It is the most ambitious and clarifying experiment in self-discovery humanity has ever conceived. By facing the ultimate challenges of survival beyond Earth, we are forced to confront our own limits, our own ingenuity, and the profound value of the only home we have ever truly known. A journey outward, across the vastness of space, is, in the end, a journey home, a renewed appreciation for the pale blue reflection in the cosmic ocean.